So, game ownership is a topic that resonates with some people and may not resonate with others. Um, Many people are fine with just buying their games digitally and they don't think too much into it. But then I do know of a subset of people who really dig deeper into it. And personally, I'm one of those people, and I know that when I was getting into this whole area of owning my games and feeling like I truly am purchasing something that is mine, um, there were a lot of tools that I didn't know about, and it took a lot of time for me to get acquainted with them. And so I just wanted to make a video that was going over the main methods I've found for really owning my games and possibly share that with you. So let's start with the basic way that everybody goes through and usually purchases their games. So here we have Steam, obviously, and when you purchase games on Steam, Valve is really good about letting you own them, mainly because of Gaben, but there's a concern, at least with me, that when Gaben isn't around anymore, to make sure that Steam is a company that's good to its consumers, these are all digitally owned. And so you don't really own them. I view ownership as I have the installer that is permanently mine, physically mine, and I can use that to put the game on any device that I may own, right? And so the two main forms of this are if I have a digital installer or a physical installer like a disk. If I own the game physically on a disk or on a flash drive, then I do permanently own it. And when I buy something on Steam, or let's say I buy it on Epic, these are purely digitally owned products. And so when I install them, I have to get the license from Epic. And if they ever revoke it or their store ever goes offline, I no longer have access to my games. And that's something that doesn't sit super well with me. Even though I know that it's a far off concern, it still is something that I like to consider. And so that brings us to how do we really own our games? And I think that what I mentioned previously, the discs, or yeah, if you own it physically in some way, you purchase a physical copy of the game. That's the first way that you can really truly own it. And consoles are good about this. If you buy it on a digital marketplace on your console, then it's just the same as Steam or Epic, where you don't truly own it. You own a digital license to install it. But if the marketplace ever goes offline, you lose access to that digital license. But if you purchase, let's say for your Xbox One, you purchase a physical Blu-ray copy of the game. Even if your Xbox is offline, and there are caveats to this, but even if your Xbox is offline, you can put in that disc and install the game to your console without ever touching the internet, and then you can open up that game and play it. Now, the caveats to this is that with more recent console generations, mainly Xbox, you can't install all of your games without an internet connection. Some games require an internet connection. Some games, like recent Call of Duty titles, they won't put the entire game on the disc. They will put a small code on the disc that essentially lets you install the digital version of the game, and so you can't install and play the game offline. Other games, most Assassin's Creed titles, I don't think Shadows does this, but most older Assassin's Creed titles and many like story-based games, you can just put in the disc, not have your console connected to the internet. It will install the entire 1.0 version of the game, and you can play the game like that. And so buying Blu-ray copies and disc copies of your games is a good way to really truly own it because that is permanent, right? Until the disc degrades or gets destroyed, that is a permanent copy of the game. So that's option number one. But if you like to play your games on PC, what's a good option for you? And I think that this is something that needs to be talked about a lot more. GOG is a platform just like Steam or Epic, except it focuses on actually owning your games. They're DRM free and they let you actually download the installer to the game. GOG sort of focuses on older titles, but it gets some newer and more popular titles. And I think as more people use it, it's going to get more and more of those titles. It does GOG does originate from good old games, and so that's what it focuses on. But like, let's see here. If I go to own games, right, and I click on Noida, which is just a little roguelite wizard game. and then I click over here, you can see offline backup installers, the first one. And if I install this 1.4 gigabyte little offline backup installer, that's the entire game. That's an exe file. It comes with a couple separate packages, but one main exe file that you can click on, and it will take you through the installation of the game. And I could put that on a flash drive. And if GOG were to go down, or this game were to be taken off of GOG, and I no longer have access to it to install from the GOG servers, I can take my little copy of the Noida backup installer and run it from a flash drive onto my computer, and it'll take me through the installation process, and I can install that to any computer I want. I fully own that. And that is what I think the coolest feature of GOG is. And that's part of the reason why I don't really buy games through Steam or Epic anymore. I really just use GOG. You can see here I have quite a few, and I'm going to take you through how I got this many as well, because there's some neat tricks to that. But yeah, there are some more popular games on here as well. I can take you to like No Man's Sky, right? A bigger example of a game. The latest backup installer is the 6.20 update, and that's 26 gigabytes. But if I'm on an older version of the game, here are the patches, and I can install these patches so that I can update to the latest version of the game completely offline. There are also some other popular ones like the Mafia games, Skyrim, Cyberpunk is on here because this is owned by CD Projekt Red, so their games make it on here, The Witcher and all that. Um, but how I really discovered this was with Luna, Prime Gaming, actually. They have a whole section for claimable games, and every week, right now, sometimes it changes, I think, but right now it's every Thursday at 11 a.m. They will post a couple free games that you can claim, and oftentimes you can see these are for GOG, so they'll give you a GOG code that you can claim, and then you own that game on GOG. Sometimes they're for Epic, sometimes they are for just Prime games. But it's a really good way to rack up a lot of games. I think overall I've purchased 30 to 40 of my games on GOG, and the rest are from free games with Prime. And you can see I'm almost at 200 now, so definitely I've gotten my money's worth out of Prime. And the neat thing about this is that you don't have to pay exclusively for Luna. If you have just a Prime subscription, for instance, I use my dad's, I'm still mooching off him. But if you just have a Prime subscription, then this comes free with it. So you just access the Prime Gaming page and you can get these free games every week. And, it definitely is worthwhile, I would say, if you already have a Prime subscription. The other method that is sometimes good is that Epic also offers free games every week. So you can see here they have, I have no idea what these games are, but they have them. They're free. And then you can see that next week they have two others, and they'll show you what next week is. But yeah, and then during the holiday season, they'll do one, I believe, all through December. Each day is a free game. So that's a good way to rack up some. Sometimes they have pretty decent games. And you can also use it to discover new games, which is nice. But those are the main ways that I kind of build out my library. But outright purchasing games, I don't do on anything other than GOG right now. Or if I'm going to purchase a physical copy of a game for, let's say, my Xbox, I will do that. But I try to avoid digital storefronts. Game ownership and just owning whatever I purchase is really important to me. And before I've discovered like GOG and all that, um, really it was just I had faith that, oh, if I purchase a physical copy of this game for my Xbox, then that's the bottom line. But then I discovered exceptions where it's like, oh, it wants me to have internet. I can't download this without internet. The entire game isn't on the disc, things like that. Exceptions, right? And so truly, GOG is the is my go-to way right now. You can see I have a decent amount of games installed at the moment, and it's since finding GOG, I've been really happy with my experience. So those are the big two methods for truly owning your games is purchasing physical disc copies of the game that have the entire game on the disc, um, or purchasing games through GOG, and then you can install the backup offline installer and just keep it on you so that you can always ensure that you have access to that game. I also like to keep backups of my saves, so I'll go in and I'll figure out where each game stores its save data in the file structure, and I'll keep a little backup of that on a flash drive or something, just to ensure that I'm prepared. I know that I'm definitely in a minority group when it comes to wanting to be prepared because obviously we can assume that Epic Games, Steam, and all of these digital platforms aren't going to go down overnight. You're not going to lose all of your libraries overnight. But it is something that could happen eventually. And so I like to be prepared, right? Even for a smaller instance, like what if my internet goes down? I still want to have access to my movies, right? And so I may be in the minority group, but I do realize that there are other people who sort of share my view on this. And so I wanted to provide a brief introduction to how I go about um, truly owning my games. And you always discover new tools. I was just introduced to GOG last year, and since then I've made plenty of use of it. But you always discover new tools, and I think that as you discover new tools, it's the best thing that you can do for yourself to use them to their fullest and make the most of what you can. So just wanted to share my experience and I don't know, maybe provide this as an introduction to someone who wants to really own their games. Anyway, thanks for listening.